All right, what's going on, guys? I'm sorry I'm not using my camera for this one. We're using my phone. I did not get done what I wanted to get done here in the basement this past weekend. I still need another bookshelf, and I've got a new desk coming, and we have made a ton of progress, but I've still got a ton to go, and I just didn't charge my camera batteries. And even if I did, I just don't have a ton of space here, and I just was like, we'll just get this out on my phone, especially because I didn't do what did I read in June video, and here we are at the end of July, and we're gonna get through everything I read in June and July. I'm gonna go a tiny bit out of order because there's two books that I listened to on audiobook, and I don't exactly remember where they go in the rotation, so we'll go through those two, like, I guess towards the end, and then I forget exactly also where the cutoff is with like June and July. So this is what I read over the course of a couple months. And we're starting with Sphere. And I was hoping it'd be spherical, but it was not. And this was my first and only Michael Crichton I've ever read. And I feel like this is a book I really would have enjoyed at 12 years old. The thing is, I don't usually read like airport fiction. I don't normally read something that's written for everybody. Kids, middle-aged, adults, old people, anyone could read it and enjoy it. Like, there are some books I enjoy that could be read by any and everybody, but that's not really what I go for. I try and go for things that are darker in nature and things that are, when it comes to fiction, I love reading fiction and nonfiction, but when it comes to fiction, I like reading things that are darker, things that might make you think. But sometimes it is fun to read something where you just kind of could just shut your mind off, but Sphere just wasn't it. It just kind of felt like if I was 12, I would have loved this. So the premise is actually pretty cool. There's something going on underneath the water, in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. There's a sphere down there. There's like some spacecraft that is found down there, and there's all these scientists that are gathered for this military operation, and they all, whatever, go down there. The thing I just don't like about this, though, is that they all, like, okay, they're adults. They never sound like adults. Like, these could have easily been like 20-year-olds, 15-year-olds. It could have been anybody down there. It just didn't feel like adult scientists. Like, there were no adult topics, adult jokes. I'm not saying they all had to go down there underwater and then be like perverts and making sex jokes or whatever, but I just feel like it just did not ring true to me of how they've got I forget the number of characters, but there's mostly guys and there's a couple ladies, and it just, when the guys are together, it just doesn't feel like, like the guys are together. I know they're all like scientists, whatever, what have you, but if there's just no like adult themes or topics, it's just, I don't know, I just can't get into the characters like that. So yeah, I don't know, I just really don't know. I just wasn't really feeling it, and I started to speed read it, if I'm being honest with you guys. It's 300 and looks like 70-ish pages. And I mean, it reads easy. Like, Michael Crichton's a good writer, but if I just don't connect with the characters, and the story was a little off too, I maybe could have put that aside if I really enjoyed the story, but just way too much padding, actually. Even though it's well written, as well written padding, it just misses the mark for me. If the characters were a little bit more interesting, and if you shaved off, even if you just shaved off like 50 pages, I'll let it be 320 pages. But 370 with so little going on and characters I'm not really feeling, it just wasn't clicking for me. It's not a bad book by any means. It just wasn't for me. I just didn't like certain things, like how, okay, so there's like the spacecraft. Inside the spacecraft is this big old sphere. And then they go down in their own like government military base thingy where they're in like some base down below the water, and there's like a scene where, like, so they've got these like cameras set up like in the spacecraft, whatever. They're like, is this an alien spacecraft? Is it from the future, whatever? And they've got like cameras set up, and one guy goes into the sphere, one of the scientists, on his own, and they're like watching him. They're like, oh my god, he's going in. And then later on they're like, oh my god, he's out. And then he's like kind of like knocked out, and then when he like kind of wakes up, they're all like, so what was it? What did you see? What was in there? He's like, it was nothing. And they're like, oh, okay, next thing. And they just kind of like move on. And I was just kind of like, what now? What? So I just, yeah, that was Sphere. I did get this very cheap on eBay in a lot with a bunch of other Michael Crichtons. They all. Oh, you know what? No, this actually was my second Michael Crichton. The other book I read was so forgettable. I forgot there was one. It was because he didn't want to. It was a book he didn't publish. He didn't release ever. He wrote it like 50 years ago, and then his estate is publishing anything this guy ever touched. And that other one they put out, was it called like A Murder in Hollywood? That one was so boring. I actually forgot. I just remember now. I was like, wait, did I just say this was? No, I read two of them. Okay, it's actually my second one. Neither of them really clicked with me, but I do have like a few others, and because his writing style is good, I'm willing to give another one a chance, but maybe not for a while. So I do have maybe like, I think like 3 or 4 other Michael Crichtons that maybe in the future, maybe, I don't know if I'll read them or not or what, but I kept them. As you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, I've been selling off a lot of stuff. I did keep my Michael Crichtons, like, just in case maybe, because he is a good writer. I just don't know really which stories of his I'm going to connect with. Maybe his thrillers. I think one of his that I have is like a medical thriller. I don't know. I know Hard Case Crime reprinted a bunch of his thrillers, but I don't know. I don't have those ones. I don't know anything about them. I don't know how good they are, but I might need to read his thrillers instead. His like kind of like sci-fi thingies like Sphere or even Jurassic Park. I do have a copy of Jurassic Park. I don't know if I'm gonna read it. But so a few of you, maybe my loyal like 3 subscribers, might recognize this book, The Nothing Man by Jim Thompson. Now, I was trying to do a project on my channel. I did 2 videos on this, and then I unlisted them, but a few people did see them. One of my buddies, my biggest fan, my friend Andrew, he was really disappointed I didn't continue this series. So I was trying to think of what could I really do on this channel, because I don't do like a ton of like book reviews. Like I do like the recap, what did I read at the end of the month. I can't, well, maybe I could, but I just don't really like doing like single book reviews. I don't know, it just doesn't, it's not really my thing. And I don't want to do like top 10 videos on this channel, and I don't just want to do like kind of like just generic slop. I'm always just looking for something fun I could do, you know, and I just really, yeah, like I said, just top 10 things aren't really for me. I think I did one and I was like, yeah, not really. But I don't know where this thought came from. I was like, you know what, it would be fun if, because I did some videos on book to movie adaptations and whatnot, and which ones are good, which ones are bad. And then I was just thinking, like, you know, it might be like a fun like exercise being a writer. Like, what if I read a book and then I could just talk about like, how would we adapt this? How would we adapt this to film? Because I made some statements about like, you know, the best adaptations, whether they change things or don't, are always the ones that keep like the, you know, essence of the book, the soul of the book, what made the book good. Sometimes you have to change things to put that on the screen. Sometimes you can keep it the same. There are a lot of examples that I gave I did a couple videos on if you guys are really interested, but there are a couple examples I gave where like they changed a lot and it was great. They changed nothing and it was awful. Like it's just, every adaptation is different. And I was like, it might be a cool exercise to like just read a book that has not had a movie made, and then I could talk about like, what would I do? What would I do? So this book, The Nothing Man, I forgot. I think I was sectioning it off into like 5 chapter chunks or something, 4 chapters, 6 chapters. I don't know. I was like, maybe we could do like 4 videos on it, and I'll go through and I'll tell you guys about Jim Thompson. I'll tell you what happens in each of the few chapters. And then I love Jim Thompson. Okay, he's written at least 2 of like my favorite novels of all time, The Killer Inside Me and The Getaway. I think I've mentioned them in almost every video I've done on this channel. I really like them. Even his other ones that aren't like way up there, like best stuff I ever read, like After Dark, My Sweet, still a really fun read. He's a really good writer. I dig his stuff. He's up until this, the only book I didn't like of his was The Grifters. Okay. And now The Nothing Man is up there with it. So I stopped doing that little video series. So I did 2 videos, like I said, on like, I'm adapting The Nothing Man. And it was just a lot of nothing happening. And then, if I recall correctly, it does the thing where it's like the equivalent of like, it was all a dream. It was like, oh, it was all in his head. And it was basically a guy being boring. And then he's like, I'm not even joking. He's like, my big secret is, I lost my penis in the war. And he's like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't tell people I don't have a penis. I might have to kill her. And then he like goes around killing chicks. And like, trust me, on the surface, when I say that, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds so funny. But like, Reading this, I was like, honestly, if I was adapting it, I would probably have to throw the whole thing out, just keep the title and the premise, and maybe the character names or some of the character names, and then I would just have to just completely on my own like override it and do everything. And then I just kind of realized like I've got my own stuff to write, and it would just be like a lot of work if I really did that just for like a YouTube video. Um, I'm not saying I gave up on it because it was hard work, but I'm just always in the middle of writing something myself. So it was just kind of, well, do I want to work on my own projects? Do I kind of want to put all this brain power into adapting something that I don't have the rights to adapt? So like the premise of the videos wasn't like, I'm going to actually write the screenplay. It was just, I'm going to like go through and come up with the story and this and that, and I'll just tell you guys about it. But to be honest, it was just, I'm in the middle of projects, and it kind of requires all my brain power. And it kind of, when I was taking notes, because I was taking notes on all the chapters, it just honestly, whenever it came time to then write my own projects, I was just like, well, I didn't feel like writing, because I felt I kind of got the writing out when I was taking notes on this and kind of planning out the videos. So yeah, all that to say, The Nothing Man by Jim Thompson, I really did not enjoy this one. Not anywhere near his other books. But oh well, he's got like, what did I read? Like 7 or 8 books of his that I really thoroughly enjoyed, and like 2 that I didn't like. So, very good success rate. Next, we've got Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. So, I don't even know where to start with this book. Well, first of all, I have a little project going because I love Stanley Kubrick. So my project is Stanley Kubrick directed 13 movies, 11 of which are based on novels. I already had like 1 or 2 of them. I decided I'm going to get all 11 of them. And they're all easy to find except for one. And I'm trying to track down the book The Short Timers, which became Full Metal Jacket, okay? I just need that one, and I need Barry Lyndon, which is easy to find. But I've got almost all of them. And so when I got them and I was kind of putting them in a stack, I was looking at Lolita, and I was just reflecting, because the first time I heard about this was from a dumb guy, a comic book artist. And you guys already know how I feel about comic books. Former comic book fan. Just the worst writers all flock to comic books. I don't know why that is. And just like horror movie fans, they all think they're intellectuals. And trust me, I'm a horror movie fan, okay? But they all think they're intellectuals. And I just don't know what it is about them. But there was a comic book artist I wanted to work with. And we were on we're doing a live stream. And I don't know, maybe we're just talking about movies. And I think somebody brought up Kubrick movies. And this guy was saying, oh, Lolita, it's disgusting. It's this, it's that. And then I ended up hearing that from maybe a couple other people, from people who've never read it, and people who probably haven't seen the movie, and people who don't understand anything about it. Because the way they talk about it, the way you might hear people talk about Lolita is they almost approach it as if it's something like sleazy or schlocky or pornographic, when in my opinion it's none of those things. It's actual literature. And I might also remind you that nobody was hurt in the writing of this novel. And it was funny because after I read this, I started watching some Vladimir Nabokov interviews, and the amount of people that ask him, like, why do you think it's okay to write? I don't know, that made me laugh. But Lolita's actual literature, and I don't think there's anything really I could say about this book that hasn't already been said, but it's actual literature. There are themes. There's a point. Oh my God, guys! Right now it's raining, and not to derail, but I'm just looking yes, no leak, no water's getting down here. I had all the problems with the flooding. All these companies quoted us thousands of dollars to fix it. My mom fixed it for $20. Not a drop of water's down here. Okay, I don't know if you guys could hear the rain, but it is dark and dreary out, and it's raining. Okay, but anyways, Lolita, this thing was really good. I think I read it over the course of a week. I could have read it much quicker than that, but there's just something about Vladimir Nabokov's prose that he just writes so much better than, English is his second or third language. He's Russian. Russian's his first language. He also knew English and French. He knew 3 languages. Okay, you guys know how many people that have come to me personally? I'm nobody, trust me, but I get people all the time that found me oh, you're a writer, can you read my thing? Yeah, sure. And it's the most I'm who taught you English, like, and I'm talking about like native English speakers, okay, that are just like can't spell, don't know what a sentence is, and there's like wordplay going on in this book, and the way he comes up with things, I'm just like, how would you even think about that? It's just so. It's just I know everything I'm saying about this has already been said. It's literature. It's well written, but like just the wordplay was magnificent. The wording is just all wonderful. It's a good book to get lost in, and it's I had seen the Kubrick movie before I read the book, and I like the Kubrick movie, but after watching it and reading it, it's just like so vastly different. And then I watched the other movie after I read this, and I was like, oh, and they got it wrong completely when they're like, we're gonna do it right this time. But yeah, it's such a wonderful book. And sorry, I know my thoughts are just like a little bit vague on this, but I just, it's everything about Lolita's already been said. I'm not really gonna have anything new to say about it, but really wonderful, excellent book. And anybody that tries to talk about the subject matter of the book and just on the surface be like, oh, but like pedophilia or whatever, he's in love with a 12-year-old. I'm gonna be straight with you guys. Lolita is barely even like in this book. The whole book is in first person from Humbert's point of view, and she barely speaks. Everything is in his head, and he's an unreliable narrator. So I almost kind of questioned while I was reading it if anything even actually happened in this book the way he said it or what. But it's it's just a really good book. After that, I decided to read The Catcher in the Rye, and this was a book my buddy Andrew recommended me. He's only read like he's told me he's only read like 20 books in his life or something like that, and this is one of his favorites. Now, I bought this one a while back. I never read it. I want to say I bought this in 2019, maybe 2020, maybe. I don't remember exactly when I bought it, and just because I don't know, I just never read it because like I was in my like horror novel phase for so long, and that's all I was reading. And then in recent times I did get into literature, and that's what kind of like interested me in reading this book. Now, this was still in, I think this was like probably the last thing I read in June, probably, if I had to guess. And everything was in boxes. I didn't know where anything was. But so I reached into like whatever box was like near me. Like I had like a bunch of boxes like down here in the basement, and I had a bunch upstairs in my room. And then this was in one of those boxes in my room. And I was like, yeah, we'll read this. Like, it's short. I'll give it a read. And again, it's another one. I know it's just very hard to review books that are just so very popular, and like everybody on the planet's read this book. Like everybody read this in like high school. I was probably one of the only people that didn't. But it's a very fun book. Fun. I mean, I don't know. Everybody says he's just like a whiny character, but I honestly didn't. I mean, I see what they mean, but it didn't sound like he was being like annoying, like whiny Luke Skywalker. It was just, I don't know, it's just interesting. The character in this book has an interesting point of view, and it was just fun hanging out with him for 234 pages. I had a good time with this one. J.D. Salinger. I'm probably going to track down more of his books. I think he's only got like 3 others, and I think they might just be short story collections. I took a brief look at them. Around the time I started reading the book, there was an Amazon buy 2 get 1 sale where that's where I ended up getting some Vladimir Nabokov books, and I did put those in my cart because they were part of the buy 2 get 1. But then I was only like a couple chapters into Catcher in the Rye, and I was just like, this is really good. Should I get like this author's other books? But then I was like, not right now. I've consumed enough, and the whole point of everything that's been going on lately with selling off books is that I've got too much stuff I'm never going to read, never going to get to. And there's so many things that I just bought just because I was like vaguely interested. And then I was like, well, what if I get to the end of Catcher in the Rye and I don't like it? Like, how many books have a good first couple chapters and they just suck? And I was like, maybe I won't like it after all. Like, so I decided, like, you know what, J.D. Salinger, his books are in my save for later on Amazon. And if there comes a time where I'm just like, yeah, I should read those now, then I'll buy them. Because for now, there are a few books I want to buy. I even do have just one new book on the way. that I bought on Amazon, but I had to buy a couple other things on Amazon. I had to buy my creatine and protein powder, and I was just like, well, okay, I'll just get one book. Okay, I bought one book. It's on the way. Okay, I'm trying not to buy things. I'm trying just to read the books I have and watch the library of movies that I have. So, but eventually, probably I'll read more J.D. Salinger. But I'm just trying not to buy things right now. I've bought like too much. Okay. Next, we've got my second Vladimir Nabokov book, and this is called Despair. This is a very interesting book. So basically, this man owns a little business, and one day he's in another town on business, and he meets his lookalike, and then the main character is delusional, and he's like planning like the murder of his lookalike, and the whole book is kind of comedic, and you just go through the whole time just like, this guy's so delusional. It's just funny to see such a delusional character. It's it's hard to explain, because with Nabokov there's like serious moments, and you're like, yeah, it's a serious book, but then you're like, oh, but like this whole thing is very funny though. So is the whole thing really a comedy? He really makes you think. Like, his books are books you have to read probably like a couple times, like maybe even like 3 times, to really like just get like all the themes, references, jokes, whatnot. There's just things that like, there have been a couple passages where like I revisited them. I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that the first time. It's hard really to give my thoughts on a Nabokov novel, because all of them have reputations for being a little unorthodox, a little unusual, a little bit different. They're not just standard like, anybody else with this plot, it would be like thriller novel, but it's like not really a thriller novel, but it's like kind of like it's like so hard to explain. I can't even give you guys a good review of it, I feel. Okay, so this, oh my goodness, so this is like the most pretentious title, and this is a modern day collection of some Cornell Woolrich novellas, and I hate that they titled this. I don't even know what this title is supposed to mean. This is Literary Noir, a Series of Suspense, Volume 2. Literary Noir. I don't know what they think is literary about Cornell Woolrich, but he's not, okay? I don't even know what is literary noir. That makes no sense. I only bought this modern day collection because there is one story in here, the first story, called I'm Dangerous Tonight, and I wanted to watch the made-for-TV movie. And I was like, why don't I read it first? Now, I was going to track down the actual collection that it's in, but that collection is Doctors and Lawyers pricing now. Let me take a sip of water, you guys. It's Doctors and Lawyers pricing. It's just out of my price range. Like, I'm not going to spend like $100 or more on a book. So I was like, oh, I'm Dangerous Tonight. I was like, I really want to read it. And then I was doing some research. I was like, let me just find, maybe it's in another collection or in like something I could find, okay? And I found this one on Amazon. It's got, I think, probably 4 of Cornell's novellas in here. And I just really did not enjoy my experience with this book because it is so poorly formatted. For instance, I'll show you guys. Here we have page 16, 17. We go to page 18. There's that giant gap because it reprints 17. You get 17 and 18, and then you get 17 and 18 again before page 19. And this book has been, I believe, since 2018. I was looking through it. This has been in print for, I don't know how the copyright holder, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, I don't know how they allowed this book to be published. Yeah, it says copyright 2018. So this has been since 2018, and it reprinted those 2 pages twice in a row, and then the thing is just full of typos and misspelled words and words that weren't capitalized and didn't have punctuation marks. And look, I can make a pass for that if I'm buying like some guy's like self-published book. He had no budget, didn't hire an editor. Fine, you've got a couple typos, I understand. But if you're reprinting somebody's work and you're licensing it, like, you really have to put some care into it. Okay, this is somebody's legacy you're holding in your hand. If you're putting out your own books, you're self-publishing, yeah, put some care into it. But if there's a typo that slips by, I understand. But when you're doing that, you just shouldn't. There's just no excuse. Especially it's print on demand. It's not like this is, and you could tell it's print on demand because it tells me they printed it in Moni, Illinois, in June of 2026. Whenever you get a print on demand book from Amazon, it tells you right there in the back. So all they had to do was just update their files, and also there's something in the back here. I checked for this specifically because a lot of publishers do this. Publisher's note says, let's see, the author and Renaissance literary talent have attempted to create this book with the highest quality conversion from the original edition. However, should you notice any errors within the text, please email, and they give the email and blah blah blah, and thank you for your help and patronage. You're telling me since 2018 people haven't pointed out those typos to them, all those errors? I don't think so. The other stories in here, one of them I've already read, but there's two more in here that I have not read. I don't know. I don't know if I should just keep this. Those other ones might be hard to track down. I don't think I have those in my Cornell collection. I don't think I have those other stories. I don't know. It was just a very sloppy way to read the story. But I've told you enough about the presentation. Why don't I actually tell you about the story? I'm Dangerous Tonight. I guess really all I could say is the movie is much better. This is told in like a series of maybe like 4 vignettes, and they all tie together with like a FBI character. The strongest vignette is the first one. It starts off in Paris, and there's this woman that she's dating an American. The American's like a criminal on the run, and this dress that she stole like turns her into a killer. Anyone that touches it or wears it, they get turned into a killer. And I just felt like that opening was very awesome. Anybody else that it involved, anyone else that got the dress after her, I just didn't like. And then the movie, just, I think they only licensed it because they liked the title, because there's nothing from that story in the movie, and I just like the movie more. So, sorry, Cornell. Not the best Cornell, but also not the worst. Oh boy, next is one of the best books I've read in my life, and that's Laughter in the Dark by Vladimir Nabokov. So, my third Nabokov novel. Oh my god, I couldn't get over how great this was. This is basically a wealthy man that falls in love with a younger woman. Kind of seems to be a little bit of a theme for Vladimir Nabokov. Is always like an older man falling in love with a younger woman, but in this book, she's an adult. And this is takes place in around like I think 1930 or so. And basically what happens is he tries to turn the girl into a movie star. He's trying to invest in getting a movie made, and she strings him on, uses him, breaks his heart. It's a very tragic, he ruins his family and his life, and it's just a very deep and strange and interesting book. And I think they did make this one into a movie, but I think it was a bit of a flop, or not a very well done movie. I haven't seen it, so I can't say, but that's just kind of what I gathered from the little research I did. I think Despair also has a movie that is actually very well regarded, but I have not seen it. Maybe I'll get into my Nabokov movie adaptations phase. I don't know how many were adapted, but I think just like the first ones that I read, just by total coincidence, happened to be adapted. And I really love this book. I can't say enough how great it is. It's just really, really fantastic. Just fantastic. And then, okay, so I've said so many good things about 3 Vladimir Nabokov books, and then this one I did not finish, to be honest with you guys. And I know it's going to be a controversial take, because a lot of people say it's either this or Lolita for his best book, but this is Pale Fire. Pale Fire. So, how far did I get into this before I quit? I know it was over 100 pages, probably like barely, like 102 pages, maybe 105 pages. Something along those lines. If this had an audiobook, I think it does, but it just wasn't on Spotify. Spotify doesn't have every audiobook, but they've got quite a bit. And that's where I listen to them, because I get 15 free hours a month. If it had an audiobook, maybe I would have, well, probably I would have listened to it. And I know Spotify sometimes gets things get taken away, so eventually if it gets on there, I'll listen to it. But most books, I'd probably give them like 30 pages at best. Nabokov, I'm willing to go a little bit higher, but also I went higher for a certain reason. This book is in 3 parts. The first part is a foreword written by one of the characters. and the foreword was it was fine. And then it's basically how do I even want to explain this book? There's an author that wrote a 999 line poem, and then another guy that knew him. Like the foreword is like, how did I meet the author? And then the author dies after he writes his poem. So then it's the second section is that 999 line poem. The third section is the fictional character that knew the author. He takes like each line of the poem and tells you about it, but then he is also kind of a delusional character, so he just kind of makes it all about himself, like, oh, this is really about me and stuff. So the forward, like how they met, is all good. The poem is interesting. I've never, to be honest with you guys, I've never really read poetry, or maybe, you know, I've read like a stray poem here or there, but never like anything like this long. And it was a pretty good poem. And then when I got to the commentary section, it starts on page 73. So in a way, I did kind of just give it like 30 pages roughly. That's where it lost me, because the character starts talking about like, okay, I don't read like fantasy novels, you guys, and he starts talking about like some faraway land and talks about like kings and like assassins, and that kind of stuff just lost me, and I wasn't really finding any of it funny, to be honest. And it's just, you know, I do want to understand why it is so well regarded. That is why this is like a novel that I will give another chance to. Something like Sphere that I didn't like, I'm not going to revisit Sphere. Like, I only kept it just to show it in the video and remember what I read. You know, that's when I'll probably sell it. Maybe I'll even give it to my nephew, okay? But this one, I just want to understand, like, why is this one so well regarded? Like, all his books are, but like, when I was doing my deep dive and I was like, well, where do I start with Nabokov? This book was up there. Everyone mentioned it. That's why I bought it. So was Despair. Laughter in the Dark was one that I just bought because when I was just looking at his books on Amazon, I read the description. I was like, oh, it sounds cool. I love movies about making movies. Maybe I'll like this book about making movies. And the movie making was actually very non-existent in the book. And yeah, I bought this one. I just wanted to see really like the hype, because it's up there. Like, so many people like this one more than Lolita. Like, Lolita's the one he's best known for, probably for all the controversies surrounding the book and the movies and whatnot, and it's just up there. This is like, everybody that's like a fan of like literature and like reads his books are like, oh, Pale Fire, it has to be Pale Fire is the best one. And I really want to understand. So this is one that, honestly, I don't think I would like read it, but I would probably listen to the audiobook. And, you know, if I wanted to just like lay back and relax, I'll give it another shot. Speaking of audiobooks, okay, we've got The Last Picture Show. So, after the last audiobook that I listened to, I still had some hours left, and I was just starting The Last Picture Show. And I think I read the first couple chapters, and then I was like, you know what? I've got enough hours left, so I will use it for The Last Picture Show, just so I could finish it for this video in time. And also, I had some other things going on where, like, I just had a lot to do, and then my eyes were kind of glossing over. And whenever my eyes are glossing over, I just like to just sit back and maybe I'll, you know, listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook. So I was like, you know what? Fine, we'll listen to the audiobook, The Last Picture Show. Why not? And yeah, and then I listened to that for the majority of the book, and then I ran out of hours just with the last two chapters. So then I returned to read the last two chapters. The Last Picture Show is another one. It's kind of hard to talk about because so much has already been said about this in the movie. But this and the movie basically have no plot in a way. It's basically, there's a whole lot of people in this small town in Texas, and they're all horny, and they all bang each other. And I actually, okay, the movie is like so like well done, and it is like very horny, don't get me wrong, but like when you think of The Last Picture Show, it's not like, oh my god, it's like a dirty movie. But this book, oh my god, I was just like, ugh. There was just like so much sex in this book. And I was like, Pulitzer Prize winning author of Lonesome Dove. I was just like, I had to like check. I was like, the Pulitzer Prize, like, do they just give that out to like really horny authors? Like, I just had to check. I was like doing a lot of Googling. I was like, Pulitzer Prize winning books, like, are they all horny? But yeah, The Last Picture Show, good book. That's really all I have to say about it. It's It was good. It's basically exactly like the movie. So if you've seen the movie, you've basically already read the book. There's very little that's different. But I do understand. So I've listened to a lot of Peter Bogdanovich interviews, and he talks about Orson Welles quite a bit because they were friends, and he said some story along the lines of well, hold on guys, let me take a sip here. So Orson said something along the lines of like, Peter, like, no, it's a dirty book. Like, don't make the movie. And Peter's like, no, I want to make the movie. And then after the movie comes out, Peter's like, what did you think? And Orson Welles is like, all right, it's really good. It's not the book. He's like, yes, it is the book. I just filmed the book. He's like, no, you didn't. Because basically, Peter Bogdanovich toned down all the, like, just extreme, like, horniness in this book. He toned it down a lot, and the movie is, like, just very keynote. I mean, it's a good book too, but yeah, I could see why it was kind of controversial at the time. So that's everything basically that I actually read, and then the two audiobooks that somewhere along the lines I was listening to these two. The first one is Dick Cavett's book called Brief Encounters, which is a really fun book. Basically, it's a bunch of essays, and Dick Cavett narrates the audiobook, and the topics are everything and anything. Some of them is about his childhood, his career. Others are about people he knew, people that he interviewed on his show. And there was one part of the book that irritated me a lot. It actually gave me anxiety. You guys are going to think I'm stupid for this, but there's a section in the book where he talks about John Lennon and Yoko Ono when they were on his show. And then he talks about how they communicated a little bit afterwards, he and John Lennon, before John Lennon died. And he had a few handwritten, signed letters from John Lennon. And he's like, as I write this, I kind of wonder what happened to those, but I'm looking for them and I can't find them. I would be hysterical. I would be freaking out. I don't know if you guys can hear that. That rain's really picking up. Still not a drop of water down here. I'm actually like so amazed, okay? But I would be hysterical. Oh my God, guys. If I had a John Lennon audio, I would kill. Since 2012, my goal in life has been to have. I know it's a little bit different, but I want all four Beatles. I want all four of their autographs. But if I just had one, okay, there would never be a moment of my life where I didn't know where that thing was. If I had a John Lennon autograph, Lord, I would. Oh my God, that thing, I would visit it daily. If I had that thing, like, let's say it's in like a safety deposit box, I would visit that thing every day. If I had it locked in a safe somewhere, I would open up that safe every day just to make sure it's still there. I'm not even joking with you guys. I'm not kidding. Nothing would stand in the way between me and my Beatles autographs, okay? The fact that John Lennon wrote to this man personally, and he's like, yeah, I don't know where my John Lennon autographs are. Oh my God, I would be just, oh my God, I'd be freaking out, okay? But it's a really interesting book. I listened to it when I was on the treadmill, and when there was a power outage at my gym, I listened to it when I was walking at the park. It was a really good audiobook, lots of interesting stories. And then the final audiobook and the final book for this video that I listened to is a book called I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. Now, Dan Wells, I'm not really familiar with his writing before I read this book. I kind of listened to a podcast that he and Brandon Sanderson do. Now, I know I've said in this video that I don't like fantasy novels, but I'm listening to a podcast with Brandon Sanderson who writes fantasy novels and is like the biggest fantasy author. I listen to podcasts in the gym, and they're both just cool dudes that they talk about movies, they talk about books. They have this kind of joke where they talk about food heists. Anytime food is stolen from a place, and I did not think there were that many food heists, but they always pull up these funny articles, just like 5,000 pounds of butter was stolen. Like somebody stole like $1 million worth of cheese. Like, I don't know. Like, they talk about it, and it's just interesting. And I just listen to podcasts in the gym. Music sometimes, like I'll listen to like a little music, but most of the time it's podcasts. And they don't shill. I mean, they have no reason to shill. Like, Brandon had a Kickstarter that raised $42 million. Like, so they're both fine. So they don't shill anything. They're never like like, subscribe, buy all our stuff. I just put on the podcast on Spotify, and it's just a couple cool guys that aren't selling me anything. So Brandon writes fantasy novels, like you all probably know, but Dan Wells, he writes a little bit of everything, it seems. I think he does write some fantasy, but he always talks about being a horror novelist too. And I was like, well, I don't really read like modern fiction, but I'll try it out. Now, the way he talks about it and Brandon talks about it, I was under the impression that Dan Wells kind of wrote like for adults, but it was kind of like a book for like 15-year-olds, for like 12-year-olds. Like I would have actually loved that book, I Am Not a Serial Killer. I would have loved it if I read it when I was 12. Funny enough, it did come out when I was 12. It came out in 2009, okay? It just felt like a book that somebody writes after they read Mindhunter for the first time. It's like, I just read Mindhunter. I know all the common traits of a serial killer. I'm going to put him in my character, and he's going to be afraid he's going to turn into a serial killer. And it was just a little bit goofy, because he's like, oh no, I'm going to be a serial killer. I don't want to be the one though. And he was just like, oh my God. He was just like I'm not like other guys of characters. It was like, probably like the first time I've seen a guy be like, I'm not like other guys. Like, it's always like, I'm not like other girls, but then she's like always like other girls. It was like, he's like, I'm not like other guys, all right, I'm like other guys. It was just, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of funny. Like, he did not miss an opportunity. I felt like half the time it was like pushes up glasses. Do you want to know about Jeffrey Dahmer? Do you want to know about the BTK? Do you want to know about Ted Bundy? And oh, did you know this? And he's just like stating facts that you would hear in Mindhunter. I will say this though, it was probably better written though, actually, like legit, probably better written than most books I read when I was like 12. Like, I would have like really loved that book when I was 12, but as being a grown adult, not really. I'm not going to listen to the others. I kind of just put it on if I needed something to listen to. It kind of took me a while to get through it. It wasn't bad. It was just like, it wasn't really like my thing, but I was just like, but there was also the fact that I only get like a certain amount of, I get 15 hours from Spotify, and I didn't have many hours left, and that book like fit it like perfectly. Like, I had like that exact amount of hours left, and then once I was like a couple hours in, I realized like, well, it's kind of like for like 15-year-olds. I was like, well, I mean, I guess I could just, finish it instead of starting another book, running out of hours, and then having to wait like another month for more hours or whatever the timeline was. So I finished it, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. It was just, it wasn't really for me. It's for like, if you've got like a nephew or something that's like 15, it's like, yeah, 14, even better, 13, 12, you get him. I Am Not a Serial Killer. He's actually probably gonna like it. But for me, it was just like, I just don't really like relate to books for like, it was the same thing with like Sphere. It's like, if it's not really like adult themes for like adults, then it's not really like for me. So that was everything that I read and listened to. Let's pose for a thumbnail. There we go. So that was everything that I read and listened to. So I don't know what I'm gonna be reading. I mean, I'm kind of on a fiction kick right now. I do want to read more Nabokov. I've got 5 more books here. I've got his book Ada, The Defense, Invitation to a Beheading, Speak Memory, which I believe is a memoir, and then The Stories of Vladimir Nabokov, which is a big chunky book with like 68 short stories in it. I've got those all right here. Maybe more Nabokov. Right now, I did, just before I started recording this, I listened to the first 2 chapters because I don't have the book, but I was like, why don't I put on another Larry McMurtry book? And I listened to the first 2 chapters of All My Friends Are Gonna Be Strangers, which is probably like the best book title I could think of. All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers. It's just like really good title, actually. And I listened to the first 2 chapters of the audiobook. My hours just reset, so I've got 15 hours. It's like, I think, under 9 hours. So I'm like, yeah, cool. We could listen to it. So I'm listening to that right now. After that, I don't know. Maybe more Nabokov. Maybe I have been wanting to read some more John Steinbeck. I have my one final David Grann book to read, The Lost City of Z. So maybe that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I have been wanting to just have a different approach with just how I read and collect books because I got rid of so much junk that I bought that I didn't even need in the first place. I'm really trying to focus on authors I like somehow without reading all their books all at once. There's nothing wrong with rereading a book. I revisit sections of books. There's probably only been 2 books in my life that I reread all the way through twice. Only 2 books. But I don't know, because I'm like, okay, if I focused on collecting and reading like Cornell Woolrich, Jim Thompson, Vladimir Nabokov, John Steinbeck, David Grant, only one more David Grant book. He's only got like 5 books, and I've read all those. But Stephen King, like it's like I could get all their books, and then I'll just be reading my favorite authors. But then I get through them all, and then it's like, now what? But I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like a way, like how I just focus on books that are really gonna that are gonna meet my taste, books from authors that I really love and enjoy, but yet at the same time, just like not going through all of them all at once. But I love to read, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm thinking about because I do have a bunch of nonfiction. I love reading nonfiction. I'm thinking about maybe I'll read a few nonfiction books, and then one book from one of my favorite authors, and more nonfiction books, and another book from one of my favorite authors. And I mean, we'll see. I'm still trying to just like figure out how to approach it all, because I've talked about this. Like I did a whole rant about this when I did my Cornell Woolrich collection video, that like way back, like when I would discover like when I discovered my favorite band, the Beatles. I just went through all their stuff in like a week, couple days, and I was like, oh my god, it's great. And I've listened to it a million times, but it was also kind of sad when you get through it all and you're like, oh well, there's no more like new Beatles stuff, and I just kind of like dread the day where I'm just like, well, I've gone through all of like Cornell's stuff, all of Jim Thompson's. It's like, well, there's no more Cornell or Jim Thompson to go through. So I'm still trying to figure out how I want to approach all this, but for now I'm listening to All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers by Larry McMurtry. And I don't know exactly what all I'm going to read next, but that's what I'm listening to right now. So thank you all for watching. Geez, this video is a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but thank you guys all for watching. We'll have more videos soon. We will have a big old update for the basement soon. I should have my new desk. I bought like a little desk. It's coming. I think actually that and the bookcase, I'll have both of them by like Wednesday, and then we'll put that together, and I think that'll be like the last bookcase I need, and then everything will be just fine as far as like my bookshelves, all the books, all the movies. Then I've got other little things that I'll have to find places for and put things back, but yeah, we're making progress and things are going cool with the basement room. So thank you guys all for watching. Bye.